forward and contradicted our findings, Ed. My book came out, October 1st last fall. And there has not been anything serious that has come forward with contrary information or alternative evidence suggesting that what I've put in the book is not true. And believe me, there have been a lot of people over the years that really got on this, the popular myth of the story. And none of the people that you just mentioned has come forward to say this is BS. This is false. There are one or two groups online that have been dogging me, but it's clear from the articles. There's one group, I think they wrote 6 or 7 articles about me, where it's clear that the problem they have is with the idea of the book. It's not what's in the book, because when they called me for an interview, this is Media Matters, I said, let's talk about what's in the book. Instead, they wanted to know, how much money did I make when I, was commissioned by the New York Times Magazine? How much was the kill fee? Questions like that. And this was for something that I had done back in, I'm going to say 2002 to 2004. They did not want to talk about what was in the book. I did an interview on National Public Radio, and they had the current sheriff in Albany County, Wyoming, Dave O'Malley, who, insists to this day that this was an anti-gay hate crime. And he said that there was a toxicology report, showing that McKinney and Henderson had not been using meth. Well, I've been researching this case and investigating it for 14 years, and I've never seen such a toxicology report. The prosecutor, who I've known also now for 14 years, has never spoken with me about a toxicology report. And 2 of the lead law enforcement officers in the case, Ben Fritzen and Flint Waters, also never mentioned a toxicology report. National Public Radio asked the sheriff to produce the toxicology report, and he didn't. I think that says something.
Well, since that accusation, have you gone back to your friend, the prosecutor, and said, hey, is there a toxicology report?
I probably had that conversation with him. He's, I'm trying to think, Ed, if I even raised that question with him, because I've raised so many issues after traveling to 34 cities. But certainly he's never said there's a toxicology report. I can say that with certainty. That there was a toxicology report done on McKinney and Henderson that would have been anything that would be of an admissible nature? No. Now, let me just say this, because I think this can be confusing to listeners, is that methamphetamine is an interesting drug. It's one of those drugs that, the sooner you test for it, the better, okay? So if they had tested McKinney and Henderson the day after this crime happened, great. If they tested them 2 or 3 or 4 days later, bad. And it would, with the passage of time, it becomes less and less reliable, okay? So what I want to say to you is there was not a toxicology report in the entire public record that was unsealed. There was not, in anything the prosecutor ever showed me, there was never a toxicology report. The prosecutor is also on the record stating that methamphetamine was central to this case, and the prosecutor has stated if Aaron McKinney had not become involved with methamphetamine, Matthew Shepard would be alive. That says an awful lot, Ed, from the prosecutor. As far as, he's quoted extensively in my book talking about the fact that Aaron McKinney was out of his mind on meth at the time this crime happened. So the a non-existent toxicology report that to this day no one has been able to ever produce, to me says absolutely nothing.
Now, what about McKinney? Has he ever denied being out of his mind on meth that week or no?
Oh, no. He has acknowledged that completely. He has acknowledged that, and in the book, I trace day by day, leading up to the night of the crime, what his activities were. On the weekend, this crime happened on a Tuesday night. He was also using, along with methamphetamine, quite a bit of cocaine, but he was using meth every day. There's courtroom testimony by one of his coworkers that he was using meth on the morning of the attack on Shepard. As I said, the fellow and his girlfriend, the fellow that traded McKinney the gun, Ryan Bopp. Ryan and his wife, Katie, they went to Aaron McKinney's apartment. Kristen Price, Aaron McKinney's girlfriend, was there. The four of them did meth together when he brought the gun over. So, there's lots of evidence as far as the meth use.
Okay, great. We got another break coming up. The break came a little quick this time, but we're on with Stephen Jimenez, the author of the Book of Matt, Hidden Truths About the Murder of Matthew Shepard. And we're going to be right back. It went so fast. We only have another half hour left with Stephen, but great information here. We'll be back right after this break. Okay, welcome back to the Opperman Report. We're here tonight with my guest, Stephen Jimenez, the author of The Book of Matt, Hidden Truths About the Murder of Matthew Shepard. Now, just want to point out before we get back to Stephen that I've been aware of this kind of stuff that we're talking about tonight way back when I was watching this on Court TV, because I was chatting with people who lived in Laramie, Wyoming, and they were telling me this whole thing. This isn't a homophobic town. The murderers, they attacked other kids that same night. They were telling me all this stuff that I wasn't seeing in the news. So I actually, I was talking to my producer and I said, hey, let's do a show about Matthew Shepard because I know all this information. And we went searching to see who we could find. And here, just by total coincidence,
the days are getting shorter, and you can feel it in the air. Yes, it's that time of year. Pumpkin is finally back at Dunkin'. It's the cozy you've been craving all summer long, now in your cup at Dunkin'. Pick up all of your pumpkin favorites, like the signature pumpkin spice iced latte, or a pumpkin iced coffee, and bakery items like pumpkin donuts and muffins. Sip into something comfortable to celebrate the start of cozy season. Use the Dunkin' app for contactless ordering. America runs on Dunkin'. The days are getting shorter, and you can feel it in the air. Yes, it's that time of year. Pumpkin is finally back at Dunkin'. It's the cozy you've been craving all summer long, now in your cup at Dunkin'. Pick up all of your pumpkin favorites, like the signature pumpkin spice iced latte, or a pumpkin iced coffee, and bakery items like pumpkin donuts and muffins. Sip into something comfortable to celebrate the start of cozy season. Use the Dunkin' app for contactless ordering. America runs on Dunkin'.
Stephen Jimenez had just written this book. But Stephen, you have been practically tarred and feathered since you wrote this book. And people, this machine has been coming out of the woodwork trying to discredit you every possible way that they can. What are the big things you want to respond to, besides the toxicology report thing? What are the big points you want to respond to?
Honestly, I wish I could say, Ed, that they had something else, but there's really been so little. The truth for me, I traveled I've done, 37 cities or towns on the book tour and just ended it recently. And what a pleasure to travel to every region of this country, with the exception of, Alaska and Hawaii, but just traveled everywhere, talking about the book, and just had the most amazing conversations with people. People were really curious. They had questions. They wanted to ask, but, initially there was concern that, that there was going to be some nastiness out there on the road because, there was a small group of activists that were trying to get my book tour canceled, contacting independent bookstores around the country and telling them to cancel my appearances. But, that failed. The American Booksellers Foundation got behind me and encouraged bookstore owners, and not one bookstore canceled. But there was an attempt early on, and I'm saying this last fall, to try to stop even having conversations about what was in the book. And that did fail. And what I saw instead was a lot of interest from people. I wasn't encountering hostility at bookstores. I wasn't encountering hostility when I did interviews. I did library events. I'm going to say that, some of the people that I mentioned earlier that have made these accusations, the one in particular, Media Matters, they've called me a hate crime denier.
Yeah.
They said I'm trying to de-gay Matthew Shepard, whatever the hell that means. But the truth is, I did an event earlier this year at the San Francisco Public Library. It was co-sponsored by the James Hormel Center, a gay center in San Francisco. I spoke in New York City in the Chelsea neighborhood, a predominantly gay neighborhood, at Xavier Church, and was sponsored by a gay and lesbian group there. I've been sponsored by gay and lesbian groups in other regions of the country. So the attempt to portray me as, anti-gay, I've been called an apologist for Fox News, that I'm a tool of the right wing. I mean, all kinds of crazy things that, first of all, have no relevance. But you're bringing something else up, Ed, that I want to respond to, which is, why is a story like this important? Because, I stayed with this story for as long as I did, not just because of the specifics of this story, but because what a story like this can tell us about our culture, our society, our world. And, what I try to do in the book is trace how a particular version of the story got set and what were the different forces that came into play that helped create that story and that mythology very, very quickly. Because in a democratic society, we really rely on the exchange of information. We certainly rely on big media for a lot of our information. Even those of us that seek more information on the internet, there's still an awful lot of information that is getting filtered to us by the television networks, by the CNNs of this world, the MSNBCs. And, I think certainly over the years, we've become less and less trusting of those sources. But this is an example. This case it's a case study, really, in how important facts in a case can be misrepresented and reported inaccurately, and those things then become the accepted truth. Now, you made a very important point earlier. What law enforcement, what prosecutors will do, their goal is to build their case with whatever facts and truths they can to put before a jury and win a conviction, That's very different than what the job of a journalist is, and the truths that a journalist is, reporting to the public. And I think sometimes there's a confusion between the two. People have said to me, well, the prosecutor in this case, why didn't he say this and that early on? And I tell people, because his concern was a mistrial. He saw that the media became very big, very fast in the case. And he knew that an offhanded comment by someone in law enforcement, someone in the courthouse, to the media, and the whole case just could have blown up. So I don't fault him for that, nor do I fault him for fighting to keep cameras out of the courtroom. But again, I just say, let's look at what can we learn from a case like this about the misrepresentations, about everything, from the fact that, Laramie is an intolerant, hateful community. The story that Matthew was crucified to the fence like Jesus. That simply did not happen. Matthew was found. He was sitting down on the ground, leaning back. His hands were tied behind his back to the fence post, but he was not standing up, hanging on on the fence. Vanity Fair